mic is hot. Welcome, everyone. That's just a small reminder that thanks to our legislators, esteemed legislators, we have to record these meetings and post them. And so if you ever want to go back and listen to yourself, they're posted on our website somewhere. And so it's a live mic, a hot mic. So welcome. Happy November.
Oh, yeah.
We had some nice cool weather. It's kind of slipping away again. It's back to, but still not like, it's not like August. And so I'm excited about that. Thank you all. We have a packed agenda, so we're going to get started. But one of the things I want to remind everybody is we're going to talk about the calendar towards the end, our draft for next year. And today you experience one of the things that we plan in to help teachers do a good job teaching your kids, which is this midweek early release where you guys as parents have to scramble to figure out what to do with your kids. I get that it's an inconvenience. However, it's really important to give time to our teachers because we don't really have a lot of time. And that's kind of the trade-off of that. And it's one of those unique things that in terms of the state rules, we get to count the day as a full day of instruction so it doesn't count against our minutes. And that's why we do it. We don't just do it randomly. If they let us take the whole day and still count the whole day, we would do that. But anyway, so thank you for your patience. This is one of those big days. Let's go to the next thing and let me give you an outline. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to be literal. Like this is a compliance piece because of the Texas rules about food and nutrition. I told you guys at the very beginning of the year, this group functions as our school health advisory council. So I don't have to have a whole nother committee. We do both those services, and one of the things is we have to give input on the menu. That's why there were 2 sign-in sheets. Because when we turn in our records that we did this, they need to see a sheet that says it's about the menu. And so even though the whole meeting's not about that, it's clearly a red tape thing. And then after that, hopefully that won't take too long, right, Matt?
That's right.
All right.
It's going to be real quick.
Then we're going to jump into some fun data with Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you can do whichever order you want, TIA first or this or
Oh, I'm
whatever.
going to surprise you.
But you have 2. Yeah, but Jimmy has the next 2 things, Teacher of Innovation stuff and Community-Based Accountability. Then I'm going to come in and come back and talk to you guys once more about the District of Innovation. You guys remember talking about that last time? I got some special fun stuff to follow up on. And then,
clarification,
yeah.
It's teacher incentive allotment, not teacher of innovation.
Oh,
You're,
I was
you
obviously
have
like-
District of Innovation
I
on the
was
mind.
saying, that's right, teacher incentive allotment, we'll change that in the records. And then the last thing is we're going to end with the draft calendar. You guys saw that I kicked out a survey, and I'm going to show you some of what we drafted and then what the feedback was. All right? Matt, you ready?
I am.
All right, take it away. Thanks for being here, by the way.
Thank you.
I gave you a hard time.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, so I'm Matt Strader. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I know you don't see me very much, but our Food Services Director, he would be here and talking to you about menus, and probably doing a little bit more of a talk to you about menus than I do. He had a family emergency to take care of this afternoon, so I said, I'm there for you. So basically, kind of going through the agenda here just a little bit is a couple of things. And like Frank said, there's a requirement that a group of teachers and students and citizens review the menu that we have and talk about food choices and things that they would like to see or maybe things that aren't working and stuff. And so that input can be received not just within the confines of this meeting, but at any time. If y'all want to reach out and you know, to either myself or Frank, and we can get that information. If you think of something later, we can get that information back to the food program so that we are making the best changes and best food options available for our students. And that's what it's all about. So I know Ephraim was going to talk about well-liked menu items that we have right now, and then new menu suggestions. But I guess first, let me just ask, in terms of y'all's perception, how do y'all feel, or how aware are you of the menu items that are provided, you know, on a daily basis to our students? Do you kind of have knowledge of that, or? And I ask that question because then maybe at the next meeting or so, we can kind of dive into and provide you information on the current menu items and stuff much more than we are at this meeting. And so, do you have a general awareness of the menu items, or would you like to learn more? And some comments?
So I'm aware just because I go through, I don't really check the menu. You know, I don't look at the menu online, but on Tuesdays when I'm visiting campuses, I generally go into a cafeteria and have lunch, and I literally eat what the kids are eating.
Yeah.
I'm aware because I'm a mom and a teacher, and we check weekly.
Mhm.
You know,
we're
just to
there
see-
right now,
Yes, and we are there right now.
so we see, get to see it every day.
Yes.
Oh, good,
We
good.
pretty much know the prices and everything. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good.
Yeah, I know. It just when he gets lunch, it just says regular lunch, and then I can tell you what snack he gets because it tells you like ice cream, cookies.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so
Okay. Well, good. Well, thank y'all. And so, are there any suggestions that you would like to make at this time, or voice and things, or maybe provide comments that you like about the menu or the food choices that we have? Or do we need to make changes? Do we need to expand it? Do we need to have more food choices? Or is there something that particularly is not working? I would love the feedback. Yes, please.
What's the criteria for it to be on the menu currently?
There are definitely, we have to follow the standards under the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA standards for the National Food Lunch Program. So they have like certain bits about how much sugar can be in the food. The daily intakes of sugar has gotten a lot of attention over the last few years. Sodium as well. So each of those food products have to confine to that. And when the menu is structured, that has to a certain amount of grain, protein, and fruit and vegetables. That has to also be; those have to be present. Now, typically at our campuses, we do we do offer versus serve. So, in meaning that we present choices to the students, but we don't force the choice on the students. Oh, you gotta have these 5 things or whatever. So, a student does have the ability to step back and say, hey, that's not something I want, but they're going to be offered that, as part of the National School Lunch Program.
Yes, so I'll add that there. From my perspective, it really limits what we're able to offer, given that
That's a good point, too.
it has a max of this much sodium and that much sugar, that kind of stuff.
But is there something that, since they do have the ability, because I just know ours uses all the money. That's about as much as I know about the menu. Menu is constantly refurbishing what's in her account. So I don't know if she's actually eating it. I don't look at it that far, but is there like a surplus of stuff that just seems to be getting thrown away because the kids just aren't going after it?
We do try to really, look at what the students choose, and then don't, because it turns costly if we have too much surplus. And so we do our ordering or kind of tailor our ordering accordingly to what's being done. So that's probably the biggest risk when we have a new menu item that we're putting out there is like, okay, well, is that item going to be well received? And if it's not, then we might have some extra during new menu item implementation. But over time, when it's a repeated item that appears on the menu like every week or every few weeks, then we gain knowledge in that, and we're like, okay, we can nail down the ordering so that there's minimal spoilage.
Like an example, it's not a menu item, but it's kind of an example of pilot and then adjust. I was at the junior school Tuesday, or Monday actually, and I didn't notice that they have this grab and go breakfast in the drop off. I hadn't seen that, and I was like, wow, it's kind of neat. And he said, yeah, we do it, and they study the data. It's like the kids are buying the breakfast, they keep doing it. If they're not, then they pull that back in because they can't, So they're always monitoring that. And the other thing I would add is I want to pat ourselves on the back because last year, those of you guys who were on this team, we did a deep dive into snacks, right? And we know we had a general sense of what, and by snack, that's like the a la carte line at elementary or just junior school?
Elementary.
There's a
Yeah, elementary,
a la carte
junior
at-
school,
at
yeah.
both,
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
We did a deep dive about sugar and what's in those and protein, and we actually added 6 or 9 like high protein options. And that's the other thing that he was going to check is to say like, well, I'm offering this, is it going to sell? Because otherwise, that's one of the interesting things about contracting. Because we contract with food services.
Yeah.
Like that's so they have to make. They only make money off of what they're able to sell.
Did it sell?
Yeah, for most part. I haven't checked back. At the very beginning when he did those, most of those things sold. But remember how he made a fruit thing? That's the one he's like, I'm not sure that's going to sell. He had to check it. I haven't checked back to see how that was. But like the jerky, that ended up being a popular item as well.
Of course.
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry, Matt.
Yeah. So, like Frank was saying, there is a separate line for the a la carte items at junior school, and then the a la carte items are in the same line at the elementaries. So, I mean, there's separate a la carte areas, but
And we
but
also
your
made
basic meal that's governed by some nutrition content.
we made a video about how parents can restrict. Right. I was
Yes.
earlier this year. I was at Woodridge eating lunch, and a kid went up there and grabbed a cookie and was like, "Hey," because he finished his lunch, and the cashier said, "Oh, sweetie, sorry, you can only have those on Fridays." He said, "Oh, that's right, I forgot."
Yeah, right.
He said, "That's okay, I'll get one Friday."
I do appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are very helpful.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
So, any other comments regarding food service that you'd like to make now, or if you think if you think of something later, please.
Now, was there a
share
survey
something.
you have to hand out?
And we do have a survey, yes.
I
So,
can also
Yeah.
add that when, especially, well, at school with, at Woodridge, I'm sure you guys do that, something like that too, but the kids cannot have the a la carte or the snacks
Uh-huh.
until after a certain
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Because we were having the problem of the kids eating the snacks and not eating the food. So they were having the cookies and everything else, but they were not eating the food. So, because now, we're not gonna be in the cafeteria anymore. We're so excited about that.
Thanks to PTO.
Thanks to PTO, we're not gonna be doing beauty anymore. Yay! We got a party at school today.
They just announced it today.
We let them, like, they have to have like 10, 15 minutes with their lunch before they can get up and grab a snack. So that helps with that.
thank you so much. So what's being passed out right now is a survey, and feel free to, as you go through the further part of the DIAC committee coming up, to mark comments down on the survey and share, and then just turn those into Frank afterwards, and we will make sure those get back to the food service program. I just want to tell y'all all, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for allowing me to talk a few minutes about the food service program. So, appreciate you.
So for the surveys, hang on to them at the end. Christina will remind me to pick them up because we do have to have those as a written record. And just please fill it out as you can. Thanks, Matt. Hit the road, Jack. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so as we're doing this shift between Matt and myself, I just want to, Martha, I'm going to call out your comment to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about. So if you did not know, when we did Budget Advisory Committee last year and we had to make some pretty substantial cuts, one of the cuts was to cafeteria monitors, which were the adults we hired to be in the cafeteria while students were eating lunch, who opened milk cartons and kind of helped kids. And so we no longer had those positions, which means our teachers and our parents were doing lunch duty. And it's a difficult thing. And so thanks to PTOs stepping up at Woodridge, Cambridge, and Howard, we are now re-employing some cafeteria monitors to help. So it is a huge deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
we want.
I'm the treasurer at Howard, and so I'm thrilled that we get to do that and help. But like, is that going to be an expectation going forward that it's going to be PTO funding it? Because like that's just less money we're putting back in the classrooms. When I think, I don't know, I'm happy to do it this year. I don't think it's like,
Well, so it's definitely a cut that the board made.
yeah, and there's no.
And so, in absence of that, the principals came up with a duty schedule. And so they also asked parent for volunteers. So my understanding is, as the parents were volunteering and giving feedback to PTOs, they're like, I'm not sure we can sustain the volunteer part of it, and so that's really up to the PTOs. It's not like if you guys wanna sustain it, then you'll sustain it.
Well, I guess the
If you
feedback
don't
I
wanna
got from
sustain it, it's gonna go back to the
Well, the
teachers.
parents, the Howard parents, a lot of them showed up and there were teachers, teachers helping. But it wasn't like when we showed up, they left, so then we felt like, I had feedback from a lot of the Howard parents were like, I'd show up to help, but there were 2 teachers in there, so like, I wasn't really that necessary, so why am I gonna sign up again? Well, the teachers were like, no, we need, but like, it wasn't like they were tapping out when we were there. If that makes sense, and so like,
Yeah, well, that's very
I guess-
much, it's a PTO decision,
yeah.
but I also wanted the
But so the,
the
but from the
teachers in the
district
room.
side, there's no building it back in.
Right, so I think the teachers have heard this before, and if they haven't, I'll say it, and the parents want you to say it again. Budget situation hadn't got better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the cuts we identified are biennium cuts, that means this year or next year, because that's the next time the state does a budget. And so, as a district, we're trying to maintain our fiscal discipline, to be like, nope, we identified it as a cut, we've gotta stick to it. And so, how we adjust for those and how PTOs help us, that's kind of really up to you all to negotiate how you feel like is best use of your funds. Yeah.
But I will say a heartfelt word of gratitude
I'm happy to do it. I just
for
didn't know if it was
this
like a
year.
long-term.
Just time is our most valuable resource, and I think teachers love being able to talk with kids, but having a few minutes to eat lunch and plan the next lesson and prep is just
Huge.
a huge gift.
No, I
So
totally
thank
do.
you
I
for
just
that.
didn't know if it was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna switch from what we were talking about, snacks and jerky and cafeteria monitors. We're gonna talk about some academics now. You good? So I've got, take one, pass it around. This is just every year we make, and this is a mule shoe, and it's got just some stats for this year. And so I'm gonna be talking them through. One of the functions of this group of DEAC is we do present some academic data and then ask for your feedback on how are we doing. So today I'm going to be talking about data from the end of last year because I haven't come to you yet this fall. And this is going to be about college entrance exams, AP exams, and STAR scores, and ask for your feedback. And then this is it's written here and you can take this to go, share with families, neighbors, friends. So we'll start with college entrance exams. And you guys take a look at this. This is historic. As we go through, Alma Heights is going to be blue, Texas is going to be gray, National is going to be red. Those of you that have been in high school, Braden, I'm looking at you. Right here, we saw a lot of STAR scores. This is PSAT, and we'll see SAT scores. After the pandemic, a lot of universities went test optional, which meant a lot of students went test optional. And so the importance placed on SAT, ACT kind of went down, and fewer kids were taking it, and we saw that in our data. But here, looking forward the last 3 years, this is a test we give every junior in school, so we know every student is accounted for in this data. Our scores went up. So that is a positive. I will say that our language arts scores tend to be a little bit higher than our math, but overall they're ticking up and substantially above national and way above Texas for PSAT. PSAT is also the test that feeds into National Merit Scholarship Program, which is a huge big deal for our students. We have 10 commended scholars in this year's graduating class. ACT is a college entrance exam, and again you can see that scores took a bit of a dip here, but have continued to go up here, and again Texas way above national. You can barely see Texas, it's kind of in the shadow of national here, but way above. We do not have a school day SAT, so this is only students that elect to take ACT. This is about 178 kids. SAT, this is school day SAT. We offer SAT during the day, so students don't have to come on a Saturday. It's free of charge for every single junior that wants to take it, and that's the data that's here. Likewise again, here's where it went test optional. We can see the uptick again, and again we see Alamo Heights way above Texas and national. Any comments here on this? I'm going to go to AP in a minute, but any comments there? Yeah, absolutely a good job. So AP courses, anyone that is high school students or is a high school student, what was the big change we made to AP last year? Required taking the exam. I'll give you a stat from the year before. In English for AP, we had 138 kids who took the class. We had 88 take the test before we instituted this policy. So it really did bring in a lot more students taking the test. So you see that reflected here. 2024, we had 731 students sit for the test. We had more students who were in class, but 731 sit for the test. This last spring, we had, I'm way short, but you kind of know what I'm pointing to. 913 students sat for the test. Okay, so you would think the kids that chose not to take an AP test weren't the ones that felt fully confident in taking that test. But y'all, when I look at the percentage of students who made a 3 or higher, a 3 means you're eligible for college credit, it stayed pretty stable. And look at this, we had 572 kids who walked away with college credit. When we started requiring kids to take the test, we had 701 kids walk away with college credit. So I think we did have some kids who, potentially if you know you're not having to sit for the test, you don't necessarily have as much skin in the game as when you know you do have to sit for the test. That's extraordinary. Anyone want to add to that? Like, you guys have some lived experience on this.
Well, I already took the AP test before for my English class last year, and I actually scored exactly the 3.
Yeah, it's college credit.
It is college credit, so I'm satisfied with my what I have already. What I can say is that, I mean, it's decent graphic and see over here, but it's understood not every single AP student take the AP exam, because I
Now,
thought,
starting last year, you have to. Prior years, you did not. It's a
okay,
big change. So in addition to more students taking it and scoring a 3, there's also a recognition program called AP Scholar. It's a big deal. It recognizes students that earned a 3 or higher on 3 or more AP tests. We happen to offer 28 AP classes in our high school. So you can track kind of year to year, going back over time. So 2019, before pandemic, total students who earned that recognition was 183. Total AP students, 567. Y'all, here's where we are now. Total scholars, 335. When we hit 200, I was like, that's it. That's our ceiling. 335 students earned a 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. Y'all, that is college credit. That means families aren't having to pay tuition. The students are walking in with the confidence. If I did it in high school, I can absolutely do it in college. 913 AP students. Y'all, that's extraordinary. Our high school has, I think we're at 1563 students. That's extraordinary.
Hey, Jenny,
Yeah.
real quick. So, like, as a parent with AP kids, we have to sign our kids up and pay the cost and whatnot. So how do you ensure that every kid that's taking AP classes
Yeah.
gets that done?
Great question.
What is that?
All right, so I'm going to answer it in 2 parts. I'm going to do the financial, I'm going to do the reminder part. Financial, any student who is identified as economically disadvantaged, there's already a discount on the cost. It's about half. In addition, we also have Alamo Heights Academic Support Group that has a scholarship fund. So if we do have students that are struggling to pay for, it's about $100.
It went up
And
this year.
yes, and so if you've got 4 tests, that adds up quickly. So we do have a scholarship fund that's managed by our counselors. That's the financial part. In terms of the reminders, and they do go through counselors, they are in Monday mail, they do come from teachers. As a matter of fact, y'all, we had quite a few that missed the original
The
AP
10:31,
date,
yeah.
which means there is a late registration. It adds a $40 to the cost, but that's open until November. And I think Corey Smith sent out that reminder about late registration on this week, I think. But yeah, it is the responsibility of families and students. The information goes out, but if you don't read it and put it in your calendar, it's really easy to overlook it.
But somebody's watching.
Someone, oh, absolutely, yes, watching. All right, questions on AP? Well done, high school. All right, I'm gonna go on talking about STAR data here. All right, so we'll start with general and then we're gonna get more narrow. So overall, again, Alma Heights is gonna be the blue. Here's the state. We outperform the state in every grade level, every content area. That's kind of, I don't wanna walk past it because it's a big deal, but it's also what we expect of our students and their teachers, that we do outperform the state across the board. So when we talk about, there's STAR scores and then there's accountability. So in STAR scores, you have just a calculation. 70% of kids passed Algebra 1. But then you turn it into state accountability, which is when they say, is the 71 an A, a B, a C, or a D? So when you see in the news A, B, C, D, that's not a straight calculation. That's a manufactured kind of calculation that they do to rank things. So I'm talking about calculations right now with STAR. Oh, this is what I just said. All right, so here, we're just gonna do this section at a time. So this is, we're looking at reading. We're gonna go reading and then math. What you need to know here, here's grade levels, and I know from your point of view, this is like a font 3 and kind of hard to see, but just look at the colors. Yellow is, it stayed stable. Up 2 percentage points, down 2 percentage points, but I call that stable, that's yellow. Red is gonna be anything that declined greater than 2 percentage points, which means the inverse, anything that's green is an improvement greater than 2 percentage points. So when you look at reading, pretty much here we have a couple little pockets that went down 3 percentage points, but overall, pretty stable. Approaches is there's 3 levels of passing for STAR. Approaches is, I'd kind of call it like making a C. Meets is like making a B. Masters is like making an A. So here approaches, pretty stable. Meets, pretty stable. We come over here to masters and we have a lot more green. That's good to see. All right, so overall, there's got some pockets we need to work on, but reading is fairly stable. I'm gonna show you math. What do you think you're gonna see here? All right, we're just gonna look at this little band here. So this is, we've got, again in masters, kids who are doing well, continue to do well. Over here in the meets, we've got kind of a mixed bag. And over here at approaches, we've got a mixed bag as well. So there are some points of success, there are some points of needed intervention, but we're just not as consistent as math as we are seeing in language arts. So I'm gonna show you, and teachers, you chime in, this is the most missed question on the 3rd grade test. So when you look at this, tell me all the places you think a child might get it wrong. What might be going on in this question?
The numeric keypad.
It's, yeah, there's a keypad here. There's one. Is it an A, B, C, D? No, so you could just, the first is content. It says Frank, congratulations Frank, put 90 pictures in a book. He puts 6 pictures on each page. How many pages does Frank put pictures on? So 1, you have division. You have a keypad. This was the most missed question. All right, I'm gonna show you the 7th grade question. Now I gotta read it to you. I'm gonna try to read it to you with a straight face. Ready? So the Venn diagram shows numbers placed in 2 sets. Set K represents rational numbers, L represents integers. One of the numbers is placed incorrectly, okay? Which statement shows how to correct the error in the diagram? Remove -8 from set L because it's not an integer. B, remove 3 from set L because it's not an integer. C, remove -3/5 to set L, or move -3/5 to set L because it is an integer. D, move -12/2 to set L because it is an integer. What are all the places a child could go wrong on that? Right? Like you can see that a child may have, and Erica Melly, I'm looking at you, my friend. A child, first you need to know integers, rational numbers. There's a whole lot of reading on here. And it is close reading. It's a lot, right? So when we say this was the most missed question, did they miss it because they didn't understand the difference between integers and rational numbers? or because it was close reading, or because
What's a set?
the set and looking at the diagram, like there is a lot going on in that question.
What's the answer?
D.
Oh, thanks for having my back on that
It's a
one.
whole nother-
All right. The other thing, I'm gonna switch from math and I'm gonna talk about writing for a moment. So this is one of the things that changed 2 years ago. Before that, there was a standalone writing test in grades 4, 7, and then in high school. 2 years ago, it switched that there is something now, an essay called extended constructed response, every grade level. I happen to be a writing teacher. I think writing is exceedingly important. This is the English 2 extended constructed response prompt. So what kids who were sophomores last year took. And it says, read the article falling into place along the fall lines. Based on the information in the article, write a response to the following. Explain how geological features have helped shape the history of human civilizations. So this is a very specific type of writing, because you're not just writing what you learned from human geo class, you're having to go back into this piece of text and use only that information as your textual evidence. So it is a different kind of writing than what we had previously seen before. So here's our writing scores. So every grade level from 3rd all the way up to English 2 uses the same rubric. So the most points you can get is 10. So here's our Alamo Heights average 2023, 2024, 2025, and then this last line is the state. Again, we're higher than the state, but what I want to point out is this percentage right here, I'm going to use 3rd grade. Their average on the rubric was a 2.9, state average was a 2.1, above the state. But at Cambridge, 47% of those student compositions scored a 0. At Woodridge, 28. Now y'all, do you really think almost half of the 3rd grade students at Cambridge got a 0 out of 10 points on a rubric? Like that doesn't quite pass the sniff test. They're scored by AI. And so there is this little bit of concern about, wow, because statewide, this is the whole reason why school districts took TEA to court, was because of computer scoring of student essays. Now, can we get better at teaching our students to write? Absolutely. But do I think this is a fair and valid number, that almost half of our 3rd graders at Cambridge scored a 0? No. I think our kids are better writers than that. Comments on this?
It's kind of borne out by the other grades as you go above it.
Yeah, so here's, the greens are where it's stronger, the reds are where we kind of took a little bit of a dip. Yeah.
So on the writing one that you just showed on the previous slide, was that like a separate sheet that they had to go back to reference? And this is all digital? And then when they're writing, because I have, my oldest is 3rd grade, so I don't think that she's got into this yet, but when they go to write this, they're writing this on a computer as well, right? So what is the ease of the student being able to go back to the original essay and have the actual writing prompts? Like, do they have 2 screens, but they having to save and minimize? Like,
No, they're not having to save and minimize. It's kind of a split screen where you can tab over here and go to specific pages of that, and then what you're writing is here, and then the keyboard's kind of at the bottom.
So they do have access to be able to be reading and typing at the same time?
They do, but is that easy?
Well, it's,
Yeah.
And it's on
Yeah.
one single screen, I assume?
It is on
so-
one single screen. That's exactly
And an
right.
iPad, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
iPad in
Yeah.
the 3rd grade, and then in middle school, high school, it is a Chromebook. Yeah,
Yeah, but the
But
screen's
it's still a laptop.
Yeah,
still pretty small.
Yeah.
It's-
yeah.
And I'm assuming that means nothing to anybody that's scoring it. There's nothing being done to.
So the decision to
Bring that back
move
to
all of
paper.
STAR into paper was made at the state level, like that's not an Alamo Heights thing, that's
Yeah.
a state. And if you just look at it pragmatically, like you can see why it's so much less expensive to have a statewide test online than it would to have it on paper. Like you can see why they made that decision. Parents do have the option to choose for their child to take a test on paper. Every parent, it's in Monday Mail, you can ask for that and have your child test on paper. but otherwise, everyone is online.
Now, if you did it on paper, the AI side would
Still,
be
I
a
don't
little
know.
bit.
That's a good question.
I don't,
I mean, it's-
I'm not 100% sure
You
on
can
that.
look at handwriting, but I don't know
Yeah.
if the state would want to go to that.
Yeah.
length.
So, back in the day, then to get a 0 was really hard. It meant like you couldn't read a
Yeah.
child's writing, or it was just
If you put your name
illegible.
on the piece of
right?
paper, you're-
But now it is, if you don't directly address this in the first couple sentences, like you can't get all creative and have evidence building to a thesis. You have to begin with your thesis. Otherwise, when AI grades it, there's like, you're not addressing the prompt, that's a 0. Even if it's beautifully written in semicolons, it's beautiful, but if you don't directly address this in the very beginning, it's scored a 0.
And I assume that's in the teaching curriculum to prepare going into it, that's. what-
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, on day of, teachers can say nothing to kids other than, great job, keep it up. Like, there's no, remember your prompt, like,
Got it.
there's none of that on day of.
Do you know the stat? I mean, because I know that that's been a big uproar of the AI usage of grading this, and so like, do you know? You said they fought TIA, or they're like, is TIA just kind of said like, tough luck, we're gonna stick with AI? Because as an English teacher in charge of a department, I'm looking at all these zeros and I'm thinking like, where do we go from here, right? Like, what instructional pieces do we give? But like, we're in this thing where I'm trying to teach good writers, but then I'm also trying to teach so AI can grade it. Like, that feels
It does feel
weird.
It does
So,
feel.
and we're sitting here looking at data, which is important, but is just a piece, right? So it's like, as an instructor in the classroom, like, how do I even use this data, knowing that AI has given so many zero? Like, how is this helpful?
So here's what I think, because if you do go, this is a in-the-house kind of, if you go into Eduphoria, like, we can get you compositions so you can read what students write. Parents, if you go into the TEA portal, you can read exactly what your child wrote. So teachers, if you're like, wow, I'm really surprised that Brian got a 0, we could read what he wrote, and I think that is helpful, putting student exemplars in front of kids. This got a 0, why? Rather than teaching to just get a score.
But then I guess my question is like, I can look at what got a 0, but is there a way for me to discern exactly why that got a 0?
There are
if
comments
it's
in there.
AI? Okay.
Yeah,
The
there's
robot
comments that say, they are, but there are comments in there. So at least it gives you what's criteria. I tried to turn this down, Brian, and I didn't get it. Will you have my back?
Colder.
Yep.
Colder or warmer?
Yeah, look, my cheeks are getting warm in here. All right, so here's this summary, kind of to tie a bow on this. Here's things that we know we're working on. One, I said, across the board, Alamo Heights, we do exceed state and Texas. Like, I don't want to walk past that in our constant goal of get better, get better, get better. We do have to sit and go, we're doing pretty well. And we want to improve in writing across content areas and grade levels. And math achievement is uneven, strong improvement at master's level, but there was additional support needed in grades 3, 7, and then high school algebra 1. So those are things this year that we're working on. I started by saying the role of this group is to give us feedback. So I'm going to ask you to turn and talk just with a neighbor, and I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. So not a ton of time, but just if you have to say, Alamo Heights, from my perspective as a teacher and as a parent, how are we doing with college entrance exams, PSAT, SAT, ACT, AP scores, STAR? Are we on track? On track means student outcomes are as expected, no changes needed at this time. Or are we sitting in adjustments being made, there are specific plans, interventions in place to improve student outcomes, time is needed just to see how those plans are working. Are we at support needed? Student outcomes are below expectations. We need to allocate additional resources, whether that's time, materials, expertise, to support students and staff, or are we in crisis where we really need all hands on deck to address something? So I'd like you to talk through these 3 areas and kind of assign them one of those ratings. So if you'll just turn and talk for 3 minutes, and then we'll have a group discussion. And I'm happy to come around and answer any questions.
He's a third grader.
That's what I'm
They have the map in this
Yeah, but I think it
Those 2 years, changing, they're dropping yeah, so that's why you
yeah, my kids are great, but obviously there's others that are not doing well. And are they doing well, or are they just kind of bored?
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry about that.
Alright, I'm gonna pull us back together in 5, 4, pulling us back together, 2, 1.5, 1.25. Alright, you guys.
1, 2, 3.
Right. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. If you don't mind, let's just go through these. So conversations you had about college entrance exams, PSAT, SAT, ACT, where do you all feel as our community, how are we doing on this?
Great.
On track? Okay? All right, I'm gonna move to AP scores.
Great.
On track? I'm gonna move to STAR. Adjustments, some support. I agree with both of those. All right, you all, thank you for that. I'm gonna turn now, look, I get 2 at-bats today. So.
Hey, Jimmy, I will say, I do think that though, like, as a parent, I would rather my kid be taught skills within whatever it is that they're studying rather than to pass the test. And I know as a district that's something that we always have said, we've prided ourselves in, and I would much rather my child be able to write a full, complete essay that is argumentative or, descriptive or whatever it might be, rather than writing so that AI can grade it the right way. So I do think that there's, as a district, we handle that well, and I think it's important that we continue to keep that in mind.
I appreciate that. I I have my own personal feelings about state accountability, as you can well imagine. But I do think one thing it does help us do is look beyond averages, and we do find that there are groups and specific students where we should be doing better. And I think that looking at it that way does help us use this data in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comment, though. All right, y'all, I'm gonna switch topics now. You ready?
Yeah.
That was students. Now we're gonna talk about teachers. So this is teacher incentive allotment, and these are just some updates. How many of you, I know you all, have heard about teacher incentive allotment, but parents, how many of you have heard anything about this so far? Anyone?
Have we heard?
Oh, yeah.
Nine teachers.
So I'm gonna start with this. Do you know what this is up here? This is my grandmother's teaching certification written by hand in 1919. It's my grandmother's teaching certification, like amazing, right? This is mine. So I put the two of those up there to say, in all of that time, the way that teachers have been compensated hasn't changed a whole lot. It has historically been based on number of years of experience, level of educational attainment. So if we both had 10 years of experience and a master's degree, came in to teach in Alamo Heights, we would have the same salary and we would go up step by step together. So that's the way it has been. In most other fields, employee compensation is linked in some way to employee performance. Teacher incentive allotment kind of combines the two, so that there is an opportunity for teachers to earn additional compensation based on the work that they do with students. So I'm going to walk you through what this looks like at Alamo Heights. So teacher incentive allotment, it is a statewide initiative that school districts can choose to do or not. It was created so that communities that are hard to staff, they're rural, they're communities in poverty, could offer their teachers additional incentive. That was the original goal of it, but it does benefit any school district that wants to do it. There's required components. One is every year teachers are evaluated by an administrator. So one of the criteria is a score on an annual observation by your observer. The other is a student growth component, and this is what percentage of students in this first grade class or this marching band class or this economics class made a year's worth of growth in a year's time. And wherever you fall, so if a teacher has a 3.7 average on their observation and 55% of their kids show growth, they're eligible for recognized designation. But you have to have both. So if someone is here for their observation and here for growth, the place where they had both would be recognized. So there's 3 levels: recognized, exemplary, masters. And the reason there's a range here, remember I said this started so that rural communities, communities of poverty, if you are Alamo Heights, Eames, you're closer to the lower end of this threshold. If you're Natalia, you're Poteet, you're closer to the higher end. Does that make sense, how this works just in general? So just so you all kind of put this in perspective, TIA supplements but does not supplant teacher compensation. There is a base salary in Alamo Heights. The base salary for teachers, there it is. Here's what it is, what it was last year. There was some legislation that did add a raise to teachers that had 5 or more years of experience, or 3 or more years of experience, but that did not include counselors, librarians, nurses, or teachers who are just beginning in the profession. So we always have to have a rock solid base salary, and TIA sits on top of that. If a teacher does get a designation, it's good for 5 years. So if they're earning that additional money, they'll earn it this year, the next year, the next year, for 5 years. So again, I said it was a state thing, but we in Alamo Heights call it, we Alamo Heightsified it. Because most school districts that are doing this are only doing it for STAR tested teachers. And it's not even 3rd grade because you had to have a prior year score and a next year score. So 4th grade, through Algebra 2, English teachers through English 2, biology in grades 5, 8, and bio, but nobody else. Imagine what that would do for the culture at Cambridge if teachers who are first grade, second grade, third grade aren't eligible for this at all, and only fourth and fifth grade teachers who teach STAR are. Imagine what this does at the high school when we say we're about the whole child, but if you're a band teacher, a drama teacher, incubator teacher, you're not eligible. So we Alamo Heightsified it and found a way to create a pathway for every single teacher. We created 78 pre and post tests ourselves, validated them. We sought out an independent, like we're using Apple Test for world language, precision exam for CTE. We spent a year in planning, finding a way that we could have a path for everyone. Because our staff said, this will kill morale unless we can do it all for one, one for all, a path for everybody. So north side, our neighbors, these are the only teachers eligible. Northeast, it's only teachers that give MAP or STAR. And Bernie is 2 years behind us and hasn't even started yet. So this does create a nice lighthouse, if you will. If I am the best marching band teacher, I'm going to Alamo Heights because I'm eligible for TIA. So this is a very unique way that we've done it. We took 2 years just to get out of the gate so that we could do it this way. The other thing I'll say about, while absolutely we want to attract and retain the best teachers we can, one of, I think, the core benefits of teacher incentive allotment is it changes our conversation from being all about achievement. We've always been the tradition of excellence to being about growth. And when you talk about the growth of every student in every course, that's a good thing for kids. It is absolutely a good thing because it benefits every student. High achievers, they need to grow a year. Students who are struggling below, they need to grow a year. In marching band and pre-K, everything, all students across the board, expectation is to grow a year in a year's time. So for the first time, we sent out a scorecard to everyone. And this was a big deal because it did quantify what students in your classroom made a year's worth of growth in a year's time. And it was, and y'all can chime in on this, it was the first time we have done this. Pulling in data from 14 different places into one report was no small feat. We worked through errors, but this was a big deal because areas that have never seen a scorecard before, I don't mean to keep using fine arts, I love fine arts, but in guitar, there had never been a pre and post. How do you know if all of the students in Kinder PE have made a year's worth of growth in a year's time? So this was our first foray into quantifying that. Here's where we landed. In year one, we have 30 master's teachers. We have 71 exemplary, 42 recognized. That's 143 teachers. That's going to generate over $1 million in funding. We pull out 10% to offset the cost of all these assessments we're buying, but that's going to put $989,000 directly into the pockets of our teachers. This is a big deal. How many times have I said it's a big deal? Like, anyone keeping tally marks there? Quite a few times. So legislative session, we keep working through all the new things that came out, but one of the things that did come out relates to teacher incentive allotment. I see it as a positive. Remember I said there are currently 3 levels, recognized, exemplary, masters. In the new legislation, how many levels do you see? Yeah, now there's 4. So they increased the funding. Recognized, which was 3,000 to 9,000, is now 5,000 to 15. Exemplary is 9 to 25. Masters up there is 12,000, going up to 36. So they raised the amount of funding. And if you remember back to that first chart, the student growth was at 55%. Now it's at 50. So you get that acknowledged category if half of your students make growth. But I'm going to tell y'all, our growth expectations are high. It doesn't mean I got 7 questions right in the fall, I got 8 right in the spring. We're setting it at about the 60th percentile of national norms. It is a high bar to meet. So if and like, remember I said it's helping communities in poverty and rural. Alamo Heights is neither, considered neither, so we're right here. So for data we collected this year, if someone is acknowledged, it adds about 4,500. Recognized will be 7,000 in Alamo Heights. Exemplary is 13. Oh, I'm in the wrong category, right? Yes, right here. Sorry, 37, 6,250, 11,000, 15,000. So it is substantial, and it stays for 5 years. So it is not without bumps in the road, y'all. But how can you walk away from the opportunity to put $1 million into salaries for our teachers? You can't walk. It is worth every Excedrin I have had to take, every cuss word that may or may not have been said. But it is an opportunity for teachers.
So these numbers are happening for this
This year.
Like it's,
Yes.
So this
Yes.
change is not
Yes.
what we heard, but
Yes,
it's,
yes. This is right now. The data that I submitted a month ago
right.
was
this
for
is
the
what we're
3
waiting
tiers.
For this.
Well,
So
yep.
if I wasn't an acknowledged and I was only 1,000, but now I can see that it's gonna be 3,700 if I am that teacher.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
I have a question about collecting data for growth. Is it just like math scores, or what do you?
No, it is, so there's a whole lot of assessments. In pre-K, it's an assessment called Circle. It is mapped for most of elementary and in class. It's locally written assessments that we validated ourselves for band, fine arts, drama, social studies. It's precision exams
Right, okay.
for CTE.
Right.
It's a lot of different things.
And that's all coming from the state.
The money comes from the state, yes. So, right now, as I said, 143 out of 290 teachers who were with us last year, we had about 49% of teachers that were submitted for designation in year 1. If I applied those standards, Martha, for those 4 categories, the new, we would have had 193 teachers. So y'all, we're gonna get, and that's 67%. We're gonna have 70% of our teachers eligible for this in very short order, and that's, say it with me, a big deal, right?
Is it required for every teacher to do this?
It is
Okay.
required, because you can't, like with MAP, I can't say, no, I'm gonna opt out of MAP for my class.
Right.
And we do use it instructionally, because you give a pre-test, it helps you know
Right.
in this class what have they already mastered. All right,
This is a yearly? Like, is this happening every single year?
Because we'll have new teachers, or a teacher was acknowledged one year and the next year they want to try to get recognized or exemplary. So this is every year, teachers trying to improve, so we're collecting data every single year.
Gotcha. So they're not locked in at $3,700 for 5 years.
No.
They have the option to go
No.
back through it
You
again
can't
and try
go-
again.
Great question, you can't go down.
Gotcha.
So if I'm a recognized teacher and then the next year, my observation is just, I've said this a million times, there's a renegade possum in the room, it just goes badly. I can't go backwards, you can only stay where you are or go up. So here's, just so you all know, I sent everything out, I checked, it's always like Santa Claus. I made a list, I checked it twice, thrice, making sure that it was all accurate. Teachers, when there were mistakes, sent them to me and I worked through it. Submitted everything in October. I will let teachers know before Thanksgiving, like, here's your final designation after we work through Find It, Fix It. We're not gonna find out that we got final approval for this until late February. We'll let teachers know around spring break. But y'all, I wanna be really clear about this. When we do find out exactly who got a designation, it is not a prize patrol. It is not walking down the hallway going, whoop whoop, master teacher, exemplary, good job, see you at lunch. Hey, master teacher, it's not that. You can imagine what that would do on morale. This is gonna be the quietest, happiest moment of my life when this happens. That we get to designate teachers, but it does have their confidential evaluation in it. So there will not be signs on doors or a video or anything about it. But it's going to be worth it.
So does that go into effect for the teachers the following School year, is that how that works?
It's always lagging indicator, so the data I submitted this October was prior year.
So there's no like back pay, meaning
It's
like.
one lump sum.
Oh, okay.
Imagine
So it
that.
comes across like
Yeah.
a bonus at the start
Yeah,
of the school
here's
year.
a $7,000 check, which I always say is either goodbye Visa bill or hello Disneyland. So it's, that'll be nice too, that it is a lump sum rather than divided over 12 pay periods for the
So
next
they'll
year.
work 2024 to be able to get that,
For next
that
year.
bonus, if you may,
Mhm.
for the start of 2024.
Correct.
Does that get taxed regularly? I mean, is it?
It does, and here's the benefit of that. It is part of teacher retirement. So the way teacher retirement is, it's based on your top 5 earning years. So if you add this into that, that helps. This is the gift that keeps on giving. Not just the 1 year you get the check, but for your retirement as well.
And the teacher feedback is all positive, or do you survey, do you ask questions?
I'm
like,
gonna let
what do you
teachers speak to
think?
that. It's been,
A
we've
lot of
walked
work.
through it. It's been a lot of work.
Right.
We've worked through it. You can't change compensation without having some bumps in the road.
Right. Do they have the ability and time to express like their?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We have.
Like, this is working, this isn't, can we fix this, or I don't like this, or I didn't know. That was just a
Absolutely.
continuing conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, Jimmy went and did presentations at every campus.
32 of them,
Yeah.
individual team by
Oh,
team.
right, okay.
Yeah, because if it's something like this, if it's in a big faculty meeting, no one, well, no, I'm not gonna say no one's raising their hand. People
Right.
would still raise their hand,
Yeah, right.
but you're more likely to have a conversation in a small group. And we had a lot of robust conversations.
Yes.
And
I'll
it
let
was
you all
also,
add.
it was also the first year, so there was a lot of frustration. I was one of them, I'm not gonna lie about that. But like with anything new that you start, there's good things and there's messy stuff, and then you clean it up, and there's a lot of scary points.
Mhm.
And a lot of like, yeah, and I was like, oh God. You know? And then you come to realize that, as you get used to it, but the main thing I think we're trying to keep focused, and we keep saying about it, that this is not about sports, because we're still out of heights, and it's not about my kid can make that score and give me that number, but we're looking at the whole child, so we're trying to keep ourselves centered on that too. Because it's nice to get that money, but we don't want to look just at that part.
I will add also, like, because it was the first year, last year, I had no way to predict, here's the number of points you'll need to grow in this specific class, because we'd never done the assessment. Now we know. We've done it a year, the benchmarks are more clear than they were last year, because it was a shot in the dark until we had a year's worth of data. What else?
I assume just like everything else though, that can unfortunately go away within some sort of legislation change.
Yeah, in the last session, so when it passed several sessions ago, in this last session, we only saw positive stuff. And so long as the lieutenant governor's the lieutenant governor, the governor's the governor, the commissioner's the commissioner, this is like, they just keep adding money to it.
And they wrote it into Texas Education Code, so it
Yeah,
can't be
that's a good
removed
point, yeah.
without a congressional.
Yeah, they've changed it.
Is there, and I mean, this is the teacher's money, but is there a thought process in being proactive that if it does go away, the school district keeps some sort of a cushion to be able to continue that for the teachers?
Well, there's not enough money locally to do it. It's gotta be state.
But I know with the Education Foundation and all the stuff that we
We're-
have
we're
worked out,
paying- and
is that
in-
something is that
in-
something to think about?
Well, in this, one of the things that is codified is with the allotment, 90% of it has to go to the teacher. So we couldn't say, you earned 5,000, Alma
We're
Heights is
gonna
gonna
keep
keep
the
25. So and that 10% just helps this keep from being a cost to the district. It's net neutral at the end.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
take the
that's-
money while it's- And with the
Well,
foundation, I mean, with the
that's-
foundation, we're funding basic budgetary items. So even with the growth that we have planned from now to 2030, there's not funding for. I mean, we're trying to cover what the state's caused us to cut just to for the to keep the lights on. So we would love to continue
Yeah.
funding all this stuff, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I just bring it up to, given what happens, that would be a real big detrimental
But
blow for the
I also-
teachers if that leaves, so trying to think proactively
But we
as the
also,
worst case scenario would be wise.
I just wanted to say that we know the times that we're living with the problems of it, that are not ours, but were brought to us because of the state. So, like you celebrate this, next year I might not, but at least like the monitors right now. We might not have it next year, might have to go back to duty next year, but hey, come on in. So the same thing with this, you know?
Yeah,
Because
the
it's not up to you
yeah.
guys, this is coming from somewhere else, so.
I think it's also strategic, if you think about this just from a perspective of a legislator, they can now stand on, we're funding teaching excellence. And it is a lot less expensive to do this than across the board raises like the one they just did.
Yeah.
So I feel like pragmatically, they're putting eggs in this basket, just for
Yeah.
the way that they can promote it.
Keep
and-
those lobbyists
Yeah.
pushing hard on
Yeah.
that.
All right, any other comments?
I mean, it's here. We all feel it. I mean, it was a morale squasher at the junior school, particularly. I think the ones who are hopeful that they're going to get it are obviously on a little bit of a high, and then the ones who aren't. Things did change for us data-wise when we looked at it, so there were some people who felt like, whoa, when they came back after summer, but I think we're over the hump of it being a morale until people start getting paid out, and I think at that point then, because there's not a prize patrol, that part feels a little weird, but it does, but it doesn't. Like, we get the reason why we're not publicly recognizing, but at the same time, it's also like, when you have that master teacher, it also kind of stinks to not, it's like a hush thing, like, we don't want to tell anybody that you're a master teacher kind of thing, so it feels very double-edged sword.
Yeah.
That's
I love
cutting you
that.
at both ends. And
I don't
so-
love that, but I love like us, but I think we can get creative and find a way to recognize in a way that's meaningful, even if it's not public.
Yeah.
I think that there's an opportunity there, but I appreciate your candor.
I try.
Well, it's been a ton of work, so we clap for Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy's quick to say it's a team effort, and it has been, but there's a lot resting on her shoulders, and so
Jimmy,
we
can I ask
appreciate her.
what? I mean, I know you don't know
Let's
it.
go to the
I know you sent it off to Texas Tech, but I mean, what are the is it looking good to be approved?
All right, so here's what I'll
Can
say.
we
So
speak
there
that candor?
there's 3 steps to get it approved. Step 1, check, which was the technical review, we passed that. Step 2, programmatic review, check. So now we're in the statistics review. I myself have run all the statistics and it looks promising. I am not a psychometrician, so if I were a betting person, I would say we're looking favorable. Like if I had what are those things called?
8 balls.
8 ball. All signs point to yes, but until I see it in black and white, I wouldn't lay down ready cash money. But I feel good. So far, so good.
Yes, so the parents in the room, if it wasn't clear, like, it still hasn't been our plan hasn't been formally approved.
Or, yeah.
Once it is, and hopefully
But
it will
the
be.
ones that got it
then-
last year, nothing will change. If this new plan doesn't get approved, they're still gonna get
Then we're
approved down
good.
for 5 years.
Well, it has to get fully approved by the state of Texas. They're just making sure that no one in a district is like, 100% of our teachers got it. So they're just checking the data to make sure that it's above board and clean, and you should do well.
All right, we have 2 more things. Hang with me. They're not long, I don't think. The first is the calendar. So you guys recall I asked for volunteers to be part of my calendar committee. So some of you guys were there. We met on October the 22nd. And I also asked PTOs to give me some PTO folks. So we had a slew of staff and parents. And you saw hopefully that I sent out the survey. Now, I'm not, because of time, I'm not going to read all of this, but part of why I put it in the survey is so that people understood all the different considerations, some might call them constraints, of where things fall where they fall. Now, I'm trying to look for I was trying to think of a good analogy, so if you have one, tell me. But, because the ones I have are so dated, nobody can relate to them anymore. But those of us that remember back when you had stereo systems and they had equalizers, they have all these things, right? All these little knobs, and when you pulled one, the other ones would move, right? So whatever analogy you can tell me is that with the calendar, when you touch one thing, it affects something else, and so it's stressed pretty tight now. That is, in terms of the number of days that we go, and for teachers and for kids. Like I have it stretched to where I don't have a lot of give, and so I don't know what to give you a good analogy, but that's how it is. And so all of these things that we do, those are all the things that are stretching it to be where it kind of landed, and I don't really have a lot to give, one way or the other. Which is like people say, "Hey, can we have an extra day off?" No, only because I don't have another day to give. Or hey, can we start later? Sure, if you want to go beyond Memorial Day. So it's all kind of like tied. And that's what all of that is meant to say. And there's also there really are reasons why we do certain things. Like I mentioned, the half day release, that kind of thing. And so, by the way, I met with the PTO presidents the other day and they said, hey, thanks for putting that in there. I actually read it and it was helpful because I was wondering, why are you doing this that way? And so now you know. Now, again, I always make this big point. I made it earlier, so I won't dwell on it too much. But both the teacher work days and these half days like today are really something that we can give to teachers to say, hey, we're trying to make this, such a hard job, we're trying to plan out times to help you, and that's what, it's really meant to be a retention tool. And so we really appreciate all the teachers that work towards that. Now, this is the draft that was in the survey, and everybody saw it. I didn't make copies because it's not final yet, but everything it's essentially the same as this year, with the exception, and in the committee we talked about this because this was the big deal is that this back end here, because of where Easter falls earlier than normal, that pushes back the Good Friday holiday back closer to spring break. Now, traditionally we take spring break on that spring forward, the time change, right? Because it's like, oh, who wants to come to work that week? Because time changed. Well, that's this week. So if we would have had spring break then, and this teacher work day has become pretty important for us to give teachers a day to get ready after spring break. And it's well, then it would be a 3-day week. That's weird. And so as I talked about it both with staff first, and then I went to the committee, and we looked at spring break during that week or spring break during this week. And even though we felt like it was a spring break during this week had less bad things about it. Whereas, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it had less bad things. Spring break during this week had more bad things about it. And so that's why we decided only to go with the one option. The committee was very helpful in that regard. So that's why we put that out. But that was the weirdest thing about that. Otherwise, everything. Now, the other thing it's the same calendar spread, but one thing was different that some people noticed, and it is true. I didn't do it, but I'll take credit if you want to give it to me. Is that Memorial Day weekend is a week later. Just because of the way. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means because it's a week later, we can push the whole school year 1 week later. And so that's how we're able to start on the 19th, which is a week later than normal. Normally we're starting on that week of the 12th. And so that was all pushed back by Memorial Day. So on the feedback, I got a lot of people like, hey, I love starting so late. And I was like, great, don't get used to it. Because it's all, remember how tight it is? It got pushed back. So that's another thing that's different, but the structure is the same, it just kind of all got pushed back.
So the last day is May 26th?
That's kids,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's teacher work day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of people fill out the survey?
Let me see, I have that data.
Okay.
Oh, I just went over that. Of the staff, it's 137. It's just about what it is generally. Mostly teachers filling it out.
Okay.
And it's mostly, every year it's about 90% of people say, yep, I'm good. And about 10 people say, I just don't like it for whatever reason. Parents was 97. That's about the same too. Sometimes we'll get up into hundreds. We don't ever get like a ton of parents, but you know, but that's about the same. Notice the whole approval thing is about the same. Now I had like on the staff survey, I had like 4 pages worth of comments. This is the open-ended, and on it was like one of them was 3 pages worth, one of them was 4 pages worth. And so a lot of them were one-offs, like why don't we get the Veterans Day off, you know, that kind of stuff. But I tried to think the ones that kind of kept coming back up that are considerations. And so from the staff end, teachers say thank you so much for those teacher work days. Like that's super helpful, especially after the breaks. Most people really appreciate starting midweek. Some don't. And so by the way, that's the nature of the calendar. And so some people like, I love kind of easing into the week. Some people like, man, why don't we just start on Monday? Like I can't get anything done. So that's the same thing with parents too. Some people like that. But we'll say, since we starting on a Wednesday, because remember, this is the first year we did it on Wednesday. Last year was a Monday. And I got like the change was like a lot of people saying yes. Thank you. And most people prefer ending, but some people like, push back, I don't care, let's keep going. Because I would rather start later, you know, but most people like, really enjoy getting done before Memorial Day. And the same thing with parents. Most people enjoy when we start, but a few don't. Well, now the one thing, I didn't put it on this, but it's an important piece of feedback, but it's not a common one, but it's important. On the calendar, on this calendar, I took off the 9 weeks marks. Like for teachers, that's really important. I don't know if parents care when the 9 week breaks comes. I took them off the actual calendar, those little brackets. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't do is on the little legend, I mistakenly kept the little 9 week things, and so I got a lot of feedback from teachers about that. So I meant to take that off because I need to work with teachers and administrators to figure out when the good 9 weeks ends are. And so I got some good feedback from teachers, some suggestions like, because we're pushing back the start a week, now they're like, we're not pushing the winter break back. And so now that kind of compresses, so how are you going to do the 2 9 weeks? And so I'm going to meet, we have a standing meeting with instructional coaches and deans, that's Friday this week. I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to be like, hey, let's work with teachers and let's figure out the best way to do it. I'm not changing the whole calendar, but where the 9 weeks ends, we certainly can talk about that. And likewise, on the spring.
I had one mom this week I was talking about how we're starting a week later potentially, and I was thrilled with that. And she just was like, "There's no camps in August." You know, a lot of parents who are like working, like put them in camps all summer, and then August like camps stop. And so she was like, "Man, so I'm gonna have to come up with something for like extra long." So
I've heard it a different, and maybe I've misheard it, but like that when kids are coming back from summer camps, that gives them another week.
These are like little kids.
Oh, I see. I got.
I'm talking kindergarten parents. But
Yeah, the really young ones.
You know, a lot of the Hello Heights camps or whatever they're called end and they're just in June. But like maybe like a kinder preview camp or like a
I don't know how far
opportunity.
Summer at Heights goes.
It's
just in
only
July,
July.
right?
It's
July.
That's good.
But I
That's
just
good.
felt like a week long. You're getting ready for kindergarten or except
Yeah.
like maybe for the littler kids. Not
Yeah.
not talking about older kids.
That's
like,
good.
Stay home alone. It's just
That's
like
a good
little
money
kids.
making opportunity
Right.
for
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah. That's good feedback. Thanks for
Frank,
letting.
who has control over right at school?
Well, we contract with them, and so technically we
Is
do.
that something that we could prep? Because
Yeah.
to be honest with you, my family's gonna be in that exact boat.
Yeah.
Because we usually try to give the kid, like, we'll work from home for that week going back just to let
You
them
write that
veg
down
out
just as a
and
note.
have fun, but
Yeah.
that's
That will be
gonna
something
turn
like
into
the
2 weeks of doing that, which is
Yeah.
gonna be a real
Yeah, so we'll follow up. That's a great point with
Yeah.
Right at School that
Because that's just an
because they
easy-
do some at least for staff, they do some right before school starts stuff.
But they do for parents too.
Yeah,
I
good.
use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
inexpensive. That would be a super easy one if
Yeah.
they're
That's
willing
good.
to.
Yeah. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
But is there any, so I feel like the committee and the feedback, we run all the traps. Anything else we need to be thinking about before I won't go to the board for a final one until the December meeting anyway. I have a couple of parents to follow up with some feedback that they gave, but other than that, I think this is kind of, anything I'm missing? I appreciate it. Okay, all right, let's go to the last one, which is, now let's go back to the main agenda. You guys have been very patient. I'm not gonna say I saved the best for last, but I saved this for last. I explained last time that there's this special thing that state law allows us to exempt ourselves from certain laws. I showed you guys some last time, you were like, blessed it, I went to the board, they blessed it, we're good. I took it and I sent it to TEA, and technically we're good. But there's a couple of, there's one crazy thing that I'm gonna try not to be grumpy about it, but I am gonna throw a little shade. Okay, so, one of the things I told you this, but I'm sure you guys didn't memorize my presentation from last time. One of the laws that passed said, in the last session, says that you can't exempt yourself from anything having to do with the laws that relate to school discipline. That's called Chapter 37 in the Texas Education Code. You know, it's this thick, and there's one chapter called Chapter 37. And I knew that. And I even told you guys that was in our thing. I took out this one exemption that we had about the campus behavior coordinator, and I deleted that. Well, and this is on me. It's a big bureaucratic plan, but I have these parenthetical references to various education code references, and I didn't notice that I had these random, like 3 references to Chapter 37 in other places that I didn't delete. And so like, hey, you can't do that. I said, well, look, I know, I just forgot to take it out. Can I just take it out now? They go, nope, you have to go back to your committee. I was like, really? To me, that's a typo. I can't just delete that? No. And so that's one example. There's another kind of example that I'm calling typo. I meant to write, exempt ourselves from like 24.B, right, in Texas Education Code. And they're like, that's not one you can exempt yourselves from. And I said, oh, sorry, I meant 24. And they're like, I said, can I just change that? They go, nope, you gotta go back to your committee. And I was like, okay. So that's what I mean by, like, I'm throwing a little shade, and I get it, maybe I should have, but it's just a pain. But you guys are so forgiving. But just know that there's those little changes I had to delete, and I'm just gonna delete those because I want it to be clean for the next time we do this. So that's that. And I have those redlined. By the way, I'm gonna show those to the board. They're in the board book, so the board can see it, and trust me that I redlined all those, and that's all that is. So that's kind of like just red tape stuff. But there's a new one, though, that I am coming back to you guys. You guys remember that, well, I'll explain it. In our September meeting, I talked about how Senate Bill 12 changed some things about our grievance process. And I showed you how it was the timing at that point. And I just said, boy, our timing is working now, and Senate Bill just kind of stretches it out, and it's impractical. And so you guys like, makes sense, Frank, too. So I put that one thing in there. Now, there's some other changes to the grievance policy that I thought at that point we can live with. Very specifically, they require us to post our grievance forms online. And they require us to accept them just via email. And I was like, maybe we can live with that. But as we were talking about it with staff, we're like, well, that might actually be a bigger deal than I thought. Okay, so here's what I mean. Right now, we have a system in which somebody wants to file a formal grievance. That means like a formal complaint. We have forms, there's a process. It's a very formal thing. Now, you don't get a lot of those. Most people, people have complaints, and we do it informally. They call, they want to talk to the principal, they try to work it out. That's good. People should talk, right? Right now, if they want to formally do something, we say, we don't post our forms online, you gotta come in and get them. And the reason why I want you to do that is you gotta have some skin in the game. You literally have to take time off of work, come up to the office and say, hey, I'm mad, I want to file a formal grievance. And then we slow it down and say, well, is there something I can help you with? Have you talked to the folks? So we slow down to see let's talk it through to see if we can resolve your issue before going through the whole process. Because once you turn those forms in, then it becomes this bureaucratic thing you have to follow. So we feel like that's been a good practice for us. And it slowed stuff down, and oftentimes people will be like, well, like one time I remember I was talking to a mom, and I just kind of listened to what she said, and I kind of helped her understand what the rules were, and she's like, well, I guess I don't really need to file a grievance. I just need to talk to the principal about it. I said, good idea, right? And so this has been working for us. And when they come in, they get all the 3 levels. They get the policy, and they get, if they have to appeal all the way up to the board, they get all of it. Now, the way the law says, and at first I thought we could live with it, but I'm like, it might transform the way we do things. Now, if they're posted online, somebody can be mad at something and not talk to anybody and not try to resolve it at all. Just download those things and turn in a form. And we wouldn't even know about it until we got the form. That's kind of like we're a community. We talk to each other, and we have disagreements, but we talk to each other about them. That could fundamentally like transform the way we do things. And we feel like that alone is where it's like, nah, we're good with the way it works. We don't get a lot of them, but we do get some. And we follow the process. But this would be too detrimental to our culture, we think. And so that's the new substantive one I'm adding. And so, any questions just about why I'm adding that?
It'd be like a Google review.
Yeah, right.
Now you can change Google
Oh my
reviews.
gosh, yeah, it'd be like comments. It's like basically your grievance policy now is comments on social media. So what I just need is I need somebody to make a motion that we recommend those 2 changes that I made. I need somebody to say, how does that? I second the motion. Okay, so you make a motion? So you motion that we recommend to the board. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great, so you want to say, Amita did the motion, you made the second. Any more discussion? All right, so the motion, all in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yeah, anybody against? Great, the motion carries unanimously. So I will now take this to the trustees and in the November meeting. And once they do it, I'll send it back to TEA, and I hope they don't find any typos. Well, that's the last thing we have for this meeting.
Yeah.
You have a question?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Mountain Heights Independent School District is eligible for exemption from all these SB 12 policy change and laws.
That's a great question. It's a law that the state passed several years ago. Any district that wants to go through the formal process can, and there are actually more and more every year, the districts that do this. They call themselves a district of innovation because it's just convenient to exempt yourself from certain laws based on your local context. There's a lot of districts that are in this boat like us, but it's a law that they allow us to do it. They passed it several years ago, maybe 8 years ago.
But there's like a special, I don't know, something that we're supposed to have to be eligible for exemption, like what exactly defines?
Yeah, so the only criteria is you cannot be a failing district in the accountability. So long as you're in good standing with accountability, then you can do this. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a great question. Hey, thanks for coming. Have a great November and a great Thanksgiving. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned at 5:30.
Where do you want these from?
Oh yeah, leave your